The void of space stretched endlessly around the Starblade. Stars blinked in the distance, cold and silent. Commander Narration stood at the front of the bridge, hands behind her back, eyes fixed on the navigation display. Her ship, an aging but fast freighter, weaved through unregistered paths near the asteroid belt of Sector Epsilon 7, just outside Zelver Accord-controlled space. 2 minutes to the drop point, said Juno, the ship's pilot. Her voice was steady, but her fingers danced nervously over the controls. Keep it tight, Lyra replied. No flares, no comms. We're ghosts. Below them, buried beneath layers of rock, was the hidden colony of Alaris, a human outpost living off scraps, cut off after the Accord banned human ships. The blockade had left thousands like them starving, desperate, forgotten. As the Starblade lowered its cargo, a crate of food packs, medical kits, and water purifiers, Lyra allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. They had made the run. Again. Then the alert blared. Incoming vessel, Zelver class, shouted Cam, the comms officer. No transponder ID, but it's them. They've seen us. Engines full burn. Lyra barked. The ship jolted as it accelerated. Outside, the stars stretched into lines. From the corner of the viewport, a sleek silver figure emerged, Zelver cruiser, twice their size, armed with plasma cannons that could shred their hull in seconds. How'd they find us this far out? Juno muttered, voice tense. They're tightening the noose, Lyra said grimly. They want to make sure no human ship flies free. On screen, a message blinked to life. Audio only. This is Supreme Envoy Therek Voss of the Zelver Accord. You are in violation of interstellar law. Cut engines and prepare for seizure. Lyra didn't respond. She turned to her engineer, Malik. EMP burst. Now. Malik grinned, already typing. With pleasure. A sudden pulse of energy shot from Starblade, cutting into the radar net. For a split second, the cruiser lost them. Hard left, thread the asteroid field. Lyra ordered. Juno yanked the controls, and the Starblade dove into the gray maze of rock. Chunks of frozen stone spun past their hull, some the size of small moons. Behind them, the cruiser gave chase, but its bulk worked against it. The Zelver were powerful, but slow. Breath held. Lyra watched as their ship ducked and darted between tumbling debris. Her crew worked in silence, sweat clinging to their faces. Finally, the sensors blinked green. The cruiser had peeled off. They were free. Cheers burst across the bridge. But Lyra didn't smile. She stood in silence, her thoughts heavy. This was just one run. One escape. The Accord would be back. Stronger. Faster. She turned to her crew. This isn't going to stop, she said. They're hunting us all. We either hide forever, or we fight. A long silence followed. No one disagreed. Back in her quarters, Lyra opened a secure file. A map appeared, marked with hidden colonies, rogue captains, unpatrolled space lanes. She stared at it for a long time. If they were going to survive, they needed more than good luck and fast engines. They needed allies. They needed a fleet. The Starblade coasted into orbit around the shattered moon of Kalos 3, its gray surface scarred with craters from wars long past. In the distance, the planet below glowed blue-green, a reminder that even in a galaxy filled with conflict, some beauty still remained. Commander Narration stood again on the bridge, her arms crossed as the docking sequence completed. The old station floating near the moon wasn't much, just rusted rings and flickering lights, but it was neutral ground. It had to be. This was where she would try to gather the captains. Docking clamps secure, Juno confirmed. No external weapons online. Yet. Let's keep it that way, Lyra said. Prep the airlock. I'll go in alone. Alone? Malik asked. This is a room full of smugglers, pirates, and ex-soldiers. Half of them probably want you dead. I know, she said. But if they're going to trust anyone, it has to be face-to-face. Lyra descended into the docking corridor. Her boots echoed on the metal grating. The stale air of the station hit her as she stepped inside. Gravity was weak, lights dim. The airlock hissed behind her, sealing the way back to safety. Inside the main hall, 5 captains sat around a scratched circular table. None of them stood. They watched her with cold, calculating eyes. Each one had lost something to the Zelver Accord: family, ships, home. But that didn't make them allies. You have a lot of nerve, Chin, growled Captain Rourke, a thick-necked man with a scar across his cheek. You drag us out here for what? Another suicide run? No, Lyra said calmly. For something bigger. Something real. She tossed a holographic projector onto the table. A blue map flickered to life, showing colonies cut off by the Zelver blockade. We're losing ground, she continued. Every day, more colonies go dark. People are starving, dying in silence. The Accord wants us broken, scattered. If we keep running alone, they win. You think a ragtag group of captains can fight the Accord? Said Zaid, a thin man in dark robes, once a respected Navy tactician. They control half the Orion arm. They have fleets, stations, influence. They have fear, Lyra said. But we have something stronger. We have nothing left to lose. Silence. She let them absorb the words. Her eyes moved across their faces. I've run from them, she said. I've smuggled supplies under their noses. I've watched them blow up a hospital ship full of civilians and call it justice. I'm done hiding. I think you are too. Captain Rourke leaned back in his seat. You want a war? No, she said. I want a voice. I want to make the galaxy see what they're doing. I want to show that we're not afraid. But we can't do it alone. From behind, a new voice cut in. You always did have a way with speeches. Lyra turned. Captain Elena Reyes stepped into the room, tall, calm, her silver-streaked hair tied back. Once a commander in Earth's planetary defense, she had disappeared after the fall of the Geneva Accords. Lyra hadn't seen her in 4 years. Elena, Lyra said quietly. Reyes gave a small nod. I heard what happened at Epsilon 7. That took guts. Lyra stepped forward. You said you'd never fight again. I didn't, Reyes replied. But I see now, peace was never up to us. Rourke shifted. So what? We line up like targets and wait for the Accord to swat us down. No, Reyes said. We hit them where they don't expect. We show the truth. Zaid raised an eyebrow. And how do we do that? Lyra took a deep breath. I have proof, she said. Documents from a Zelver cruiser. Hidden orders. Civilian targets marked for elimination. If we get it to the right places, public relays, independent worlds, it'll spread faster than they can shut it down. And if they find out? Rourke asked. They will, Lyra admitted. But by then, the galaxy will already be watching. Reyes stepped beside Lyra and placed a hand on the table. I'll fly with her, she said. One by one, the others exchanged looks. Some skeptical, some uncertain, but no one left the room. That night, aboard the Starblade, Lyra stared out the window at the broken moon. She knew this wouldn't be easy. Unity never was. But for the first time, the fire was starting to spread. They had a plan. They had captains. They had hope. And that was a start. The Starblade cruised through the edge of a dying star system, its engines running low and silent. 3 other ships followed in formation. The Marahawk, the Eclipse Drift, and Reyes's sleek war-retrofitted transport, the Silver Warden. Together, they formed the beginning of what Lyra had hoped for, an alliance. Fragile, cautious, but real. They were heading to the Garrus 9 station, an abandoned mining facility now used by smugglers and salvage crews. It was one of the few refueling spots left outside Zelver control. But today, Lyra wasn't going there for supplies. She was going into a trap, and she knew it. Inside the Starblade's command room, the lights were dim. Lyra stood with Reyes and Juno, watching a digital projection of the station. The structure rotated slowly, its outer rings cracked and listing. No signs of active defenses. No patrols. Too quiet. This place should be swarming with freelancers, Reyes said. Where is everyone? Gone, Lyra answered. Or hiding. Malik tapped into the system. There's a transmission loop broadcasting on a dead frequency. It's fake. Someone's covering up the absence of traffic. Lyra nodded. Then we're not early. We're expected. Reyes looked at her. You sure about this? No, Lyra said honestly. But if Voss is here, we might have a chance to pull something bigger than fuel. The rest of the small fleet held back at a safe distance. Lyra took the Starblade in alone, masked by jamming fields and a silent drive. As they approached the docking bay, alarms stayed silent. No movement. Stillness was its own warning. Inside the station, the lights flickered overhead. The crew moved cautiously. Every corridor was empty, every shadow stretched too long. Their footsteps echoed down the metal halls. This place smells wrong, Malik muttered, tightening his grip on his scanner. Juno pointed ahead. Hangar control should be this way. They reached the door. It slid open slowly, groaning from rust. Inside, a single terminal blinked. Lyra walked to it, fingers tapping quickly. Her brow furrowed. What is it? Reyes asked. Lyra turned the screen toward them. Rows of files opened, Zelver military orders. Target lists. Locations of colonies, including some marked as cleared. But the files weren't encrypted. Not even password protected. They wanted us to find this, Lyra said. This is bait. Just then, the light snapped off. The station shook violently. Brace! Malik shouted. Explosions tore through the outer corridors. On the ship's comms, the voice came again, cold, familiar. Commander Chin, you've walked straight into our hand. I offer you a final mercy. Surrender the data, and you and your crew may yet survive. Therek Voss. Lyra stared at the flickering console, then at her team. Back to the ship, now. They sprinted through the station as it buckled around them. Fire spilled through the vents. In the distance, Zelver droids poured from hidden compartments, their glowing red sensors sweeping the halls. Reyes fired, dropping 2 before they could aim. As they boarded the Starblade, Juno screamed from the bridge. Zelver cruiser uncloaking. It's the Spherian Dusk. They're jamming long-range signals. Lyra leapt into the pilot chair. Cut auxiliary power. Activate decoy drones. We're not staying to fight. The Starblade tore away from the station just as the mining hub exploded behind them. A plume of fire burst into the dark, casting light on the silver mass of the Spherian Dusk. Evasive maneuvers. Juno shouted, gripping the controls. Reyes manned the gun turret, launching countermeasures and energy flares. The cruiser's weapons missed narrowly, shaking their ship but not hitting it. From the shadows of nearby asteroids, the rest of their fleet appeared. About time, Malik muttered. The Marehawk and Eclipse Drift opened fire, distracting the cruiser. The rebel fleet didn't have the firepower to destroy it, but they didn't need to. They just needed to run. The small human fleet retreated into the thick asteroid field, using speed and shadows. The Zelver cruiser pursued but quickly lost them in the dense rock cloud. Hours later, safe in the shelter of a gas giant's rings, the fleet regrouped. Inside the Starblade, Lyra sat in the war room, bruised but unshaken. They tried to make an example of us, she said. Instead, they handed us proof. The files they retrieved from the trap weren't real mission data, but they included fragments of command protocols, enough to suggest coordinated targeting of human settlements. Malik confirmed it. If we cross-check this with colony logs and survivor testimonies, we'll have solid evidence. They've been wiping us out quietly. Reyes leaned forward. You planning to leak this? Lyra nodded. Not just leak. Broadcast it. We send this across every free channel, every independent world. We show the galaxy what the Accord really is. Reyes smiled. Then we'd better build a bigger signal. The trap had failed. Voss had underestimated them. And now, the fire was catching on more than just ships. It was catching on hearts. Across colonies. Across systems. Across stars. The rebel fleet hovered in the shadow of a dead planet, its gray surface swirling with acidic storms. The ships, scarred, mismatched, and barely held together, waited in silence. Every engine was cooled, every signal dampened. In the cold vacuum of space, even a whisper could mean death. Commander Lyra Chin stood in the center of the Starblade's command room, her eyes locked on the central display. It showed a single target, Relay Station Theta 9. Built decades ago by neutral trade guilds, Theta 9 sat in high orbit above the fractured moon Althea, untouched by the Zelver Accord. It wasn't a military base. It had no weapons. But it had something more powerful, a galaxy-wide communications array. If Lyra could reach that station and upload the Zelver data, the truth would go everywhere. Every colony, every free world, every system that still had a voice. And once the truth was out, the Accord could not silence it. She looked around at her crew. Juno, Malik, Reyes, Cam, each had their own reasons for being here. But now, they shared one mission. Status on Theta 9? Lyra asked. Cam responded. Still running on auto-defense mode. No signs of life. No Zelver presence either. That's what worries me, Reyes muttered. If I were Voss, I'd wait until we were committed, and then strike. We can't back out now, Lyra said. This is our only chance. She turned to the fleet's comms channel. All captains, this is Commander Chin. Operation Beacon is green. We move now. Stick to flight plan Gamma. No deviations. We get to the station, hold it long enough to send the signal, and get out. If you see a Zelver cruiser, run interference. Don't break formation unless it's to save a life. Understood. The comms buzzed with quiet affirmations. They were ready. The fleet broke cover and surged toward Theta 9. As the Starblade neared the relay station, its tall spires shimmered in the starlight. The structure looked peaceful, silent, dead. But Lyra didn't believe in appearances anymore. Malik, she said. Link with the station. Juno, prep a boarding crew. Before they could dock, alarm screamed. A ship emerged from the dark, sleek, massive, and marked with the unmistakable crest of the Zelver Accord. The Spherian dusk had returned. "Voss is here," Cam said, pale. The cruiser immediately opened fire. Blue-white beams lanced through the void. One of the escort ships, the Driftmaker, exploded into shards of metal. Lyra didn't flinch. "Evasive pattern Delta. Reyes, take the forward turret. Cam, jam their comms." The Starblade rolled sideways, dodging a plasma blast by inches. Its hull groaned under the pressure. The rest of the fleet scattered, returning fire in sharp bursts, striking from different angles. In the chaos, Malik managed to connect to the relay. "We're in. Starting upload." "How long?" Lyra demanded. "For minutes," Malik answered. "Then we hold for 4. Outside, the battle intensified. Human ships darted between the relay's antenna towers, using them as cover. The Spherian dusk was slow but deadly. It tore through debris and enemy ships alike. Still, the rebels kept it distracted, sacrificing their engines, their hulls, their lives. On board the Starblade, the power flickered. Fire broke out near the rear corridor. "Contain it," Juno shouted, slamming the emergency release. Lyra stood firm at the command post. The ship shook again. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Malik called out, 2 minutes left. Outside, the Silver Warden took a direct hit. It began spiraling, smoke trailing from its rear thrusters. Lyra's heart clenched. "Elena," she called into the comm. "I'm alive," Reyes answered, voice strained. "Steering this bird with one hand. Just keep that signal going." Another blast rocked the station. One of the relay towers cracked and broke apart, floating away. 1 minute, Malik shouted. The Spherian dust closed in, targeting the Starblade. "They know," Cam whispered. "They know we're the source." "Doesn't matter," Lyra said. "We finished this." Then the station's transmission lights turned green. "Upload complete," Malik shouted. "It's live. Data's transmitting on every open frequency." A wave of light burst from the station as the message echoed across the galaxy. Inside the data packet was everything: images, orders, logs. Proof that the Zelver Accord had targeted human colonies for elimination. Voice recordings of high command planning false flag operations. Coordinates of mass graves. The truth, undeniable. For a brief moment, silence fell. Then, something unexpected happened. From the far side of the system, 2 ships arrived, non-human vessels. Not Zelver. Not Rebel. Independent traders. They opened comms. "This is Captain Vree of the Ventari Free Guild. We received your broadcast. We stand with you." Others followed. A Zarn patrol ship. A merchant cruiser from the Varnak League. The stars were waking up. "Voss is retreating," Cam said in disbelief. "He's pulling back." Lyra exhaled slowly. Not victory, but something close. Hope. As the Starblade limped away from the station, fires still smoldering, engines barely holding, Lyra looked at the starlit sky. Somewhere, people were seeing the truth for the first time. Across hundreds of worlds, screens blinked on. Words scrolled. Faces turned. And questions began. The Accord had ruled with silence. Now, silence was broken. The wreckage of the relay station still drifted in orbit when the Starblade regrouped with what remained of the fleet. Hulls were scorched. Systems flickered. The losses were heavy. 2 ships destroyed. 5 more crippled. Lives lost. But the data had been broadcast. Across the galaxy, people had seen the truth. And now, the galaxy was watching. Lyra Chin stood on the Starblade's bridge, eyes locked on the swirling blue rings of Lyra's halo, the wide, shimmering belt of gas and ice that circled a twin-star system. The rebel fleet had retreated there to regroup. It was a place of beauty and silence. But it would not stay peaceful for long. "We've received word," Cam said quietly. "Zelver forces are mobilizing. Voss is leading them himself. Full armada." "How long?" Lyra asked. "Hours. Maybe less." Lyra turned to her crew. Juno, still limping from a burn. Malik, running diagnostics with one hand bandaged. Reyes, barely recovered after ejecting from her damaged ship. They were tired. Hurt. But not broken. "This is it," Lyra said. "They're coming to silence us. To erase everything we just did. But they're too late. The galaxy saw the truth. We're not alone anymore." She looked out the viewport. Small flashes of light blinked in the distance, ships arriving. Independent freighters. Merchant escorts. Patrol ships. Even a few old Earth Navy vessels. They were answering the signal. One by one, they hailed the fleet. Their voices cracked through the comms. "This is Captain Darrow, Free Belt Alliance. Standing by. Trader Karn of the Varnak League, our guns are yours. Old ship, new cause, someone joked. We've got missiles and nothing better to do. Lyra felt something shift inside her. For the first time in years, humans were not alone. They had allies, united not by politics, but by principle, by the belief that no power should control the stars. The warning sirens began. Kim spun in his chair. Multiple warp signatures, Zelver ships incoming. The bridge went quiet. Lyra stood tall. Everyone to battle stations. Defensive formations. We hold the line. The sky above Lyra's halo lit up with white fire. The Zelver armada came in waves. Sleek cruisers, fast corvettes, heavy dreadnoughts, all moving with silent precision. At the center of it, the Spherian Dusk, Voss's command ship, cut through space like a blade. The first barrage hit hard. A Varnak trader was torn in half. An Earth Navy cruiser lost its port thrusters. But the line held. The rebel fleet fought with everything they had. Fast ships darted in and out, hitting weak spots. Freighters dropped drones as makeshift mines. One small ship, already damaged, flew directly into a Zelver corvette, taking both out. Inside the Starblade, the hull shook violently. Shields at 20%. Malik shouted. Keep firing. Lyra yelled. Target engines, not hulls. We slow them down. Outside, Reyes flew in tight circles around a Zelver destroyer, her weapons hammering at joints and turrets. She took a hit to her wing but didn't stop. The Spherian Dusk loomed closer. Voss is making a move, Kim said. They're heading straight for us. Lyra narrowed her eyes. He wants the Starblade. He knows we're the source. Juno turned from the controls. Then we ended here. As the Zelver flagship approached, the battle became chaos. Fire trails cut across the void. Explosions lit the rings of Lyra's halo in shades of red and orange. Smaller ships darted between the floating ice, using it for cover. The Starblade raced forward, straight toward the Spherian Dusk. Is this suicide? Malik muttered. Only if we miss, Lyra said. She activated a hidden protocol. The Starblade's engine core shifted, overcharged for one purpose. A focused energy burst, not meant to destroy, but to blind. EMP ready, Malik confirmed. 10 seconds. As the massive cruiser prepared to fire, the Starblade unleashed the burst. For a moment, everything went white. Zelver ships stalled. Screens died. Their formation broke. Lyra didn't waste time. All ships, attack now. The rebel fleet surged. Ships that had been holding back now swarmed in. Missiles slammed into exposed flanks. Ion charges disabled weapons. Reyes's battered ship fired the final round into the Spherian Dusk's rear stabilizers, causing it to drift. Inside the crippled cruiser, Therek Voss watched his screens go black. Around him, his officers scrambled. Outside, his fleet was in full retreat. For the first time, he understood. He had lost. Not just the battle, but the control, the fear, the silence. Human ships now flew with support. Non-human allies stood beside them. And the stars had turned. The battlefield quieted. Floating among the rings of Lyra's halo, debris and silence returned. The rebel fleet had survived. The Starblade, smoking and scarred, remained at its center. Lyra exhaled, slumping into her seat. It's done, Juno whispered. No, Lyra replied softly. It's just begun. But we're still here. And now, they know it. She looked out at the stars. They were still free. The battle at Lyra's halo was over. The silence that followed was not one of defeat, but of change. Floating wreckage drifted in orbit, a quiet graveyard to both Zelver and human ships. But among the wreckage, hope still burned. The Starblade limped into dock at a neutral orbital station over the planet Cirrus. Its hull was blackened and scorched, engines flickering. But it had survived. So had its crew. And so had the dream. Inside the medical bay, Lyra Chin sat on a folding chair, her left arm wrapped in a pressure bandage, her right hand holding a data pad. She reviewed the latest transmissions, hundreds of them. Ships offering aid. Colonies offering support. Governments, small, independent ones, acknowledging what the Accord had done. The floodgates are open, said Cam, stepping into the room. Varnak League is demanding a tribunal. Venari Guild just offered us protection for future human convoys. Lyra looked up. And the Accord? Cam hesitated. Splintering. Some member species are calling for Voss's removal. Others want full withdrawal from occupied human territories. Good, she said, placing the pad down. Juno appeared next, her arm in a sling but her smile wide. The relay broadcast hasn't stopped spreading. Even Zelver civilians are starting to question what's been hidden from them. Lyra nodded. Truth has gravity. You can't outrun it forever. The door slid open and Reyes walked in, a cane in one hand. Her limp was worse now, but her eyes were clear and steady. "They're asking for you," she said. "The council. A unified delegation. First of its kind." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Me? You're the one who lit the match. They want you to represent humanity in the talks." Lyra stood slowly. She glanced around the room, her crew, battered but alive. These people had risked everything. Not just for a planet. Not just for humans. But for freedom. For the right to fly, to move, to be. She walked with Reyes through the corridor to the council chamber. Along the way, crew members and civilians from different species watched her pass. Some nodded, some smiled, some simply stood in silence. There were no barriers now. Only understanding. The chamber itself was simple. A ring of delegates, many seated in the same room for the first time. Alien voices, human ones, mechanical translators humming softly. Lyra stood in the center. "This war wasn't about territory," she said calmly. "It wasn't about ships or technology. It was about fear. The Accord feared us because we are many, and we are different. Because we don't always follow the path others expect. But fear cannot be the foundation of peace." She looked around the room. "Now you've seen who we really are. We're builders. Fighters. Survivors. We want our children to see the stars without asking permission. We want to work beside you, not beneath you. And we will never again let our people be hunted for daring to dream." There was no applause. Just quiet nods. Agreement. Respect. After the council, Lyra returned to the Starblade. The ship had been repaired enough for flight. Her crew was already prepping for launch. Juno grinned. "Where to next, Captain?" Lyra took her seat in the command chair. She looked at the stars ahead, shining brighter than before. "Out there," she said, "where no one tells us where we can or can't go." The engines hummed. Thrusters fired. And the Starblade slipped into the vast, open sky. In the following weeks, human ships began to reappear along the trade routes. Not hiding, not running. Protected by treaties, supported by allies, and carrying goods, people, and ideas across the galaxy. The Zelver Accord still existed, but it no longer ruled through fear. Therek Voss was removed from power, his tactics condemned by the very council he once controlled. And the message Lyra had sent remained archived in every public data net across known space. A message that began with truth and ended with freedom.